Today in this video, I am showing you the absolute best settings to use in Modern Warfare at this very moment. Now, I used to be a very competitive player. I would travel to Call of Duty events and compete. So over the years, I have learned a couple tips and which settings are really the best. Now, Modern Warfare kind of changes it up a little bit, but we're going to be going over literally everything that you need to know when it comes to your settings and how to make it perfect for you. I'm going to try and make this video as fast as possible and not drag it on, so let's go ahead and jump straight into this video. So first, I know that some of you guys have SCUF controllers or Xbox Elite controllers, whatever you have, but in this video I am assuming that the general audience does not. But I do highly recommend getting a SCUF controller or an Xbox Elite controller, as it does help you a lot, tremendously. And I've used them for the better part of the past decade, and they're just amazing. So to start off, we're jumping into options and heading over to your button layout presets. I personally have mine on tactical, and of course the default is default. Tactical makes it for when you press down on your right thumbstick. This will act as your B button or your circle button. So you're going to be crouching, laying down, sliding. I personally use this and it helps me tremendously. This also replaces your melee and puts it as your B or circle button. Now, another one of the great options, if you don't want that to be your sliding, your crouching, all that good stuff, I would highly recommend using the stick and move. This makes it so that the right thumbstick is your jumping rather than crouching or melee, whatever you have it, and your X or A button will be your melee. Now, honestly, I would be using the stick and move button layout preset, but I have a SCUF controller with currently one paddle, and my one paddle is the jumping, so I don't need it. Jump shotting in the current games are far more effective than the crouching or drop shotting, so my main recommendation would be going with that stick and move. Next is going over the horizontal and vertical stick sensitivity. Now, this is going down to how well you can control your movement at higher or lower sensitivities. Now, as a past competitive player and as many of the other pro players, usually that lower sensitivity is going to be better because it's much easier to hit those further shots and control your accuracy a little better. I believe mine is default, which is 4.4, which I have used in just about every Call of Duty, which it helps tremendously with locking onto targets that are further away. Now, hell, if you're a god and can put on, what is it, 20? Then put on 20, but again, lowering your sensitivity helps a lot with your accuracy. You're not going to be able to turn and snap on players as easily, but truly in Modern Warfare, you don't have time to turn and shoot someone behind you. You're just kind of dead, and that's just how Modern Warfare is. So overall, I would recommend sticking anywhere between 3.3 and maybe 6 or 7, somewhere around there. Now, I personally do not change this whatsoever, but I know there will be people asking questions if I do not go over this. The ADS sensitivity multiplier, which is how fast you move while aiming in, or of course ADSing. With these, I keep my defaults, but if you again have trouble while aiming in, hitting people, and you just find that you're going all over the place, I would recommend lowering this to maybe 70 to 80%, which makes it easier to hit targets while aiming in. The low zoom is going to be your basic reflex sights or your iron sights, stuff like that. Your high zoom is going to be anything with a higher zoom in, such as your 3-time optic sight, your sniper scopes, all that good stuff. Again, I keep mine at the default, which is 1.1. Play around with that a little bit. Of course, you know how well you are at hitting targets while aiming in, but I find, again, 1.1 works best for me. Next is a huge change that I would recommend every single person to have off, and that is controller vibration. Now, once again, this is a huge pro tip. A ton of different pros have controller vibration disabled. I disabled this probably all the way back in BO2 is the first time that I disabled this, and I have kept it disabled ever since. And that's because of those little vibrations of your controller can cause your shot to just move ever so slightly. You'd think that just the small vibrations wouldn't really make a big difference, but little do you know, it really can make a difference. I promise, especially with those longer shots, if your controller is vibrating, it's going to be harder to hit those super long shots. Now, going into the weapons, I would recommend keeping all this the same, along with your movement. There's just really no reason to change it. Some people mess around with their aim assist. If you're an extremely good player, you can put it on precision, which is extremely good for very accurate players and players that have just been along for a long time. But overall, I find that standard is the best. No reason to change it. Again, all of this I just really wouldn't mess around with. Next is your general settings, and a few of these I changed. The brightness settings I keep at 50%. This is going to have to do with your TV or your monitor, whatever you play on. It's all different. I would go with what it recommends. Again, the first one, not visible, barely visible, easily visible. With those, you're just going to play the best. It's going to be the easiest way to see people. If you play on a lot of darker maps, you can up that setting a little bit, but they've been getting pretty good at the lighting, so I find that it's not needed to change it. 50% works best for me. Next, we're going over film grain. This, I don't even know why it's in the game because it's kind of just ridiculous. Turn that all the way off. Turn it off. Never touch it. There's no reason for it to be on. As you can see in the picture, it adds visual noise or just random particles throughout everywhere, which I guess they would assume makes it look better, but when it's all the way off, you just have an overall clearer picture and things won't blend together. So therefore, you can see enemies a lot better. Next, that kind of goes along with all that is down in the accessibility. That's going to be your world motion blur and your weapon motion blur. Again, disable these. No idea why. It's in the game. Not only does it make videos better if you make YouTube videos or streaming, again, it just makes everything much more clear. These motion blurs make it, of course, when you're moving at pretty much any pace, it blurs out the surrounding, and it's supposed to make it look better. But again, if everything is blurred out, how are you going to be seeing people? The clearer the picture, the better, the easier that you're going to find people. Disable those. Don't touch them. They're absolutely pointless and not needed whatsoever. Last but not least, we're heading over to the audio tab. What we're going to be going over here, what we're going to be going over in the audio tab is making it so that you can hear players' footsteps, gunshots, a lot clearer, a lot better. This is kind of how it's been in every Call of Duty game with these settings. So in future Call of Duty games, you can kind of keep it the same. But let's go ahead and go into this. For audio mix, it is defaulted to studio reference, but putting on boost or boost high will, especially for headphone users, make it much easier to hear the enemy footsteps or those gunfires that we're talking about. This game is pretty good on TV as well when it comes to audio, so either way, put on boost or boost high. It might take a little bit getting used to the sound change, but this will help you hear much better. Next, we don't need to touch master volume unless you're just blowing out your eardrums. Then turn it down, save your ears. For music, I turn it down to 40 to 50%. Although the music can be nice, it can also be annoying and you could miss certain footsteps, sounds, whatever you need sometimes because the music is overlapping those sounds that you need to hear. Next is the dialogue volume. I would keep this a little higher, between 60 and 70%, due to the fact that your character actually gives off some pretty useful information. But again, if it's too loud, you're going to not hear those footsteps, the gunshots, everything that you need to hear. Lastly, I would have effects volume all the way up. I find that this actually helps with footsteps and just overall everything that you need to hear. So I would keep that all the way up and just turn down the dialogue and music volume. Now, all this will take time to get used to, so do not get frustrated or try not to get frustrated when switching over, especially when changing your button layout preset. It will take days, sometimes weeks to get used to, and it just can be really frustrating. But I promise doing all this will improve your gameplay, improve your hearing, and just improve everything that you need to know. Again, I recommended getting a SCUF controller or an Xbox Elite controller. These can range anywhere from $150 to $250, so of course it's not for everybody. You can also learn to play claw, which is basically just making a claw and using your index finger to hit your buttons to jump, to crouch. There are hundreds of videos on that if you want to go and play it. If you want to go and watch and learn how to do that. Pros use claw. I've tried to get into claw, but it just hurts me in my carpal tunnel personally. But overall, these settings is going to be best for the average player. Anyways, that's going to be the end of this video. As always, thank you guys for watching. I am so close to being able to monetize on my channel, which makes me so happy. Not because of the fact that I can make money. I really don't make any money from my videos, and I probably won't for a long time. But it's really just passing over that threshold. It's like, you know, we're actually getting somewhere. Again, thank you guys. As always, I love you guys. I appreciate you guys, and I will see y'all in the next one.